Greetings, clobberers and clobberettes, and all of my dear friends out there in clobbering land. It is good to see you. This is Clobby coming at you from Clobby'S Comics Corner, my spinning rack time machine, in which each week I bring you into my spinning rack time machine, take you back 50 years, and I pick out the week's comics just as if you had your weekly subscription at your comic shop, your folder or your pull list. We pretend that it is 50 years from this week, backwards in time into that lovely Bronze Age, my spinner rack time machine, a TARDIS cleverly disguised as a 70s spinner rack. And I choose about 10 titles based upon my, of course, sensibilities of 50 years ago. Yes, I'm that old. I was buying comics even then. Well, very, very young and couldn't get all of them. And then mixed with my crusty, curmudgeonly 50 years later self. And I pick out just 10 of the ones, and I show you a little bit of the ones that I didn't pick, a little brief glimpse of those. And then the secondary video the next day, the backup, the following video, the quick bits will be me, just a little recap, a little look at the ones that I did not pick. So I usually pick anywhere from 8 to 10 each week for my folder list based upon, again, my tastes. And I show you what we have. And if you have not seen these videos before, I wanted to give that quick recap of what we're all about here and for these Spin Rack Time Machine videos. And there is a link in my description below, along with the links of many other wonderful YouTubers, which will give you a playlist if you find all of these videos. I've been doing this since September of 71. September of 2021, though. So have quite a few of these videos made already, and we do it I like to do it sometimes a little bit late, like this video is about a day late. But I like to get them all done for a month. And this will be March, week 1. That's right. March, week 1. Number 1, the Lodge. Number 1, the Lodge in March. Monty Python fans will know that one. Okay. Well, let us push on, shall we? Here we go. Our first selection, however, is one that I had it all ready to do for the last week of February, and for some reason left it off the last video. I was very angry with myself about it, so I decided to just, put it on to March, just as if I missed that comic out of my folder at the comic shop. I'm going to grumble. So here it is. We will begin with Tarzan of the Apes number. Well, it's number 207, but as you notice, it says first DC issue. And the reason that is because it had been, of course, obviously owned by the Edgar Rice Burroughs estate. It had been a comic book property, for some newspaper strips, of course, and from novels, but also when it comes to comics, Gold Key had been, I think Dell had it before that. Dell still on the Gold Key. Whatever, it ended with Gold Key, and we had the last issue up there a couple of months back. With 206 issues. And strangely, when DC ended up getting the license for a short time in the 70s, this is their first issue of it. And they kept the numbering from Gold Key. Why? They didn't really have to do that unless Edgar Rice Burroughs Estate somehow told them to do it. It was something like that. I will look into it. I did not do the research on that. I remember reading a lot of I've read interviews a while back about how it switched to DC and then switched to Marvel. So there's probably a good reason for it. But I'm just being upfront with you right now. I don't exactly know what it is. Anyone who does know, if you want to put it in my chat. But anyway, look at this great Joe Kubert cover. And this, of course, Retails does a comic book origin, or a comic book adaptation, I should say, of the very first Tarzan novel, Tarzan of the Apes. And I have a bunch of reprints of some of these. I don't have every issue of the DC Tarzan or even the Marvel Tarzan, which was a few years later. But wow, Joe Kubert Tarzan, can't beat it. One of the great Tarzan artists. I love him. So, the second story in this, because this was at that time, as I say every month, these DC books at the time were all big 52 pagers at 25 cents. Marvel was still sitting at 20. And DC was really, really trying to load those racks up, make their comics thicker, make their comics more more appealing. So they did a lot of reprint stuff. So you didn't just get a new story. Sometimes you got all reprints. Sometimes you got a couple of new ones and a reprint. In this case, story 2, believe it or not, is from a Hal Foster Tarzan strip. It is from his newspaper strips, but it is in this comic. Kyle Foster, of course, for many years in the early days, was one of many Tarzan artists, one of the greats. As you all know him from Prince Valiant fame, but he worked on the Tarzan strip along with Bern Hogarth and other greats of the time. And so you have a little reprint of that in there, which is pretty nifty. And then, of course, you have a third story by Mr. Marv Wolfman and Murphy Anderson with one of the classic Joe Kubert covers. So this is a must for Tarzan fans, and just a great comic. I only have a reprint of this actually, in one of the Treasury editions, I believe. That I have the two Tarzan, the tabloids, and DC did not call them Treasuries. But next up, in March, of course, that was a holdover from February, but I had to get it in there. Billy the Kid number 22 from Charlton Comics. This is a tip of the hat mostly to a good buddy of mine. I don't know if he watched these much. I think he said he watches them sometimes. Chris C., a buddy of mine that lives in town with me that we go see movies with, will know I'm talking about. He really loved this Billy the Kid comic from Charlton, so I thought I would cover that for him. I didn't buy them much when I was a kid, but this is my modern day sensibilities now. If I were in that comic shop, I would have definitely picked this up. Stories by Joe Gill and Pat Boyette, art Jose Delbo, Pat Boyette with a Jose Delbo cover. Yes, longtime artist who did Wonder Woman many years later. Primus number 3 with Lazarus. That's right, Robert Brown, the actor, had a photo cover. Stories Joe Gill, Sal Gentile. I don't know if it's a Gentile or Gentile you say it. Cover is a photo cover from, yes, the guy from everyone's favorite, non-favorite Star Trek episode, The Alternative Factor. Guy Robert Brown, who played Lazarus in that one. So I never saw this show. It was a syndicated, cheap show made by the guy who originally produced Sea Hunt with Lloyd Bridges many years earlier. This was kind of a cut rate rip off of that, ripping himself off, I should say. It was a syndicated series, not a network one. I hear a cheap, low budget one, but I have never seen it. But there you go with Charlton with a TV tie-in for that one. Our Army at War featuring Sergeant Rock number 245. Story art in the first one, Robert Kanigher, the prolific, DC writer, and especially did a lot of stuff, but mostly a lot of war comics. The great Russ Heath on the art. Story art 2, Norman Maurer. Story art 3 is a reprint from All-American Men of War number 61. Mort Drucker, of Mad Magazine fame, did some DC stuff, for those who don't know, early on. Not a lot, I don't think, but he did a good bit. I mean, he did a bit at some point, I should say. Story art 4, reprint GI Combat number 77. Bob, Mr. Continuity Haney, my buddy. And the great, the legendary Joe Kubert on the art for that one. There's a Sam Glensman story in there now who did the story and art, as he always did, for the 5th story in there with it sports a top-notch Joe Kubert cover. This next one, I have this because I have a decent Superboy collection. Obviously, not all of them. I wish I did, but I love these wraparound covers, by the way. But I have this one, and it is all reprints. And so I didn't bother citing all the different comics that reprinted. There was no place to put it. But needless to say, if you do seek it out and you just want it to have it, it's great to have. I don't know what's going for these days, but it's a cool one to have. You just no new material. It'll just be known that it's all reprints with stories by Otto Binder, the great Mr. Continuity himself, the Earth B. Bob Haney, the legendary Jerry Siegel, and the other legendary Bill Finger. So some great creators handling the writing chores, and a lot of art by some greats, gold and silver. George Papp, John Small, Bruno Premiani, Pete. It was Pete Rice, Pete Ress, not Pete Ross, not Superman's friend. It was Riss. John Forte, George Klein, John L. Bloomer, and the extraordinary Kurt Swan. Yes. Oh, and it has a great Nick Cardy cover, of course. An event, folks. An event. Event alert. Event alert. Event alert. Wonder Woman number 200. You think they'd have gone all out with a Wonder Woman cover for number 200, wouldn't you? This was again in her Emma Peel-ish stage where she doesn't have the stars and stripes. For a while there in the comic, it was a strange phase she was going through. They were trying different things, as you can see at the top, masthead at the top there, with the teardrome version of her in this mini skirt. This cover, however, the interior is by Denny O'Neil and Jeff Jones. The reprint in the second part of it, Robert Kanigher, Ross Andrew, and Mike Esposito. That's from a Wonder Woman 144. But getting back to Jones did this cover. Jeff Jones didn't do a lot of work back then. He was a pretty well respected. A lot of people liked his fantasy art and things like that. He did mostly that kind of stuff. Although here told that Frank Frazetta didn't care much for him because he thought the guy he was ripping Frazetta. You can see some of that here. He was kind of a Frank Frazetta ripoff. And some of the things didn't do much. I hear today he goes by the name of Jeffrey Catherine Jones, but I'm not sure if that's true or not because he didn't stay in comics very long. Daredevil number 88. Story, Jerry Conway. Art, Gene Colan and Tom Palmer. Love the Gene Colan, Tom Palmer Daredevil art team. Cover, Gil Kane and Ralph Reese, I should say. So this one, of course, sports the Purple Man. Gotta love that. Kilgrave the Purple Man. So he's back. Great stuff. We all know I love me some DD. The Daredevil. Love him. Mr. Murdoch, folks. Fear number 8. Some would sometimes, or accurately called Adventure into Fear, but they didn't put Adventure into really that way. So on there, so it is called Fear number 8. Reprints of Tales of Suspense 26 and Journey into Mystery 62 with credited Stanley writing and art. A lot of great art in this one, though. Kirby, Ditko, Heck, Ayers, Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko, Donnett, Dick Ayers. With a nifty John Severin cover. Sometimes I forget to put the cover artist on there and I have to just speculate at it. Sometimes I just do these things too quickly. And they take forever to make these things. You think they would, but I'm just no good at this kind of stuff, so I'm sorry. Justice League of America number 98. Get close to that big 100. Story art, Mike Friedrich. Dick Dillon, the great, long-standing artist on Justice League, Dick Dillon. Somewhere in the really not even to the middle of his run on this series. Joe Giella on the inks. Story art 2 is a reprint from Sensation Comics number 70, and that would be John Brome and Paul Ryman. And story art 3 is a reprint from Adventure Comics 92, Joe Samuelson and Emil Gershwin. This, of course, sports an interesting Neil Adams cover. Love me some JLA. And finally, the final book of the video, Our Fighting Forces, featuring the losers, Captain Storm, Johnny Cloud, Gunner, and Sarge. Story art, Robert Kanigher, John Severin. Story art 2 is a reprint from All-American Men of War, number 56. With written by the great Bill Finger and drawn by the great Russ Heath. Love Russ Heath, great artist. Story art number 3, reprint GI Combat number 85. Mr. Earth B himself, Bob Haney, Mr. Continuity, and Irv Novick on the art chores there. Blah 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 blah. Sorry, try to talk too fast. That's what happens. Story art 4. Robert Kanigher, Ross Andrew, and Mike Esposito. Story art 5. It's a reprint from Star Spangled War. Story is number 49. Written by the great Bill Finger and, of course, Mort Meskin in the comic sports, nifty Joe Kubert. cover because he was great at that sort of thing. So, all right, my friends. Well, I thank you so much for being here with me today, whatever it is. It'll be a sort of night when this thing runs. It took me forever to get this done. I'm sorry, this video's late. I'm going to try to get it back to Wednesdays if I can, but it's going to be a Thursday release, it looks like. And there will be a Clobby'S Quick Bits video tomorrow to show you a little bit of the ones that didn't quite make the list, but still deserve a little bit of a love. So I hope we start off March well. I hope you all have a wonderful March and are here with me. And please, of course, join me for my live streams. Tonight there's one on this Thursday night. And, of course, I have them Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays for Saturday Night Star Trek. So just take a look at the channel. Please like and subscribe if you are so inclined. And holler at me in the comments here. And there are ways to contact me in my description below. So a big shout out always to my wonderful First Officer, R.M. Briggs, for making my spiffy little intro outro here. And thank you all so much for watching this video. Clobber on, clobberers.